We welcome head coach Mark Johnson and Casey O'Brien from the Wisconsin Badgers. And Mark, a season with only one loss is pretty remarkable. Does that lead you to believe that it's been a pretty consistent high level of play all season?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good word. I mean, I think for our coaching staff and, the message to the players early on in the season is, can we be consistent throughout the, 4.5, 5 months that we're together, from practice to practice and then from weekend to weekend, month to month, and, it's a long year. And generally, if we can be consistent in those time frames, you're going to get better as a squad as you go along. So what you look like in September is going to look a lot different in November, and hopefully right now we look a lot different than we did back early in the season. So you give the players credit because they're the ones that have to go through it. They have to understand it, they have to buy into it, and then they have to execute, that ability to come to practice every day. And as you well know, you've been around the sport a long time. Some days I don't want to practice. I don't feel like practice. I might have exams or something else is going on in my life that's, taking me away from that. But, the group's been solid. They've been consistent, and you look at our record and it indicates that, yeah, they have been consistent.
Casey, you have so many great individual players that come together and work so well as a team. How does that happen? Because it doesn't always happen that way.
Yeah, I think this year's special, especially when you have a group of freshmen coming in that, immediately they're making an impact. That's always huge. And so I think from top to bottom, every line, every D pair, the goalies, they're all just so good. And so when you put that together, you can find chemistry amongst lines, and that's when something special really happens. And throughout the year, we've been able to find those different line combinations. I think, when we mix up the lines in certain games, like you might be with someone who you don't normally play with, but it's still the chemistry's there. And so it's credit to everybody in the locker room for just showing up every day and giving their best.
Mark, the numbers on this team are unbelievable, leading in so many statistical categories. And the offensive numbers are obvious, but let's talk a little defense. To allow only 38 goals in 36 games, how does that happen?
Well, I think if you're around me enough, I'm not a big numbers guy. I'm sort of, try to stay in the moment and figure out what we need to do next to try to make improvements. But, when you reflect on those, as you mentioned them, yeah, some of them are a little mind-boggling and understanding, but again, it's, trying to get kids to buy into, what's going to make it successful. And so that's usually starts, most coaches start in their own end, Obviously, Avis had a great year. She had a wonderful finish last year. Different role this year, where last year, she split every game. And then got to the end, and we ran with her towards the end of the tournament. Unfortunately, we didn't win that last game, but she got some experience. And then what was she going to be like playing every night early in the season, and would she be able to handle that? She showcased herself. She worked hard. She had a couple experiences in the summer that helped her with her confidence. And I think the early part of the season, she showed and indicated not only to her teammates, but to us as a coaching staff that, yeah, she can carry the load here.
Casey O'Brien, Mark Johnson, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll be back to the WCHA Final Face-Off in Duluth in just a moment.